know and love come to you like the sound of equipment being thrown from a moving van, the sound of dead cell phones and oil rigs, the sound of empty parking lots and school buses. They love to live and live to love. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesus Children of America, the White Stripes.
Hello. Come on in. The water's great. My name is Ryan Schaap, and this is the hardest podcast to podcast. Is this your first time here? Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming by. Come on in. We'll put some coffee on. Great conversation this week with Allie Sheldan, who plays bass in the band Weightless. Who is Weightless? They're a great band out of Vancouver. Loud as hell. More importantly, they opened up for Jack White at one of the shows here in Vancouver at the Commodore Ballroom. And when I was able to get in contact with Allie, I said, I'd love to hear the process, the steps that went into this, because there's a lot of mystery behind it. And the No Name tour has been, you can call it DIY, you can call it punk rock, you can call it a little guerrilla, but there's a little bit of mystery behind it. And, you know, every stop on this tour, you had a up-and-coming, somewhat unknown band that would get the opportunity to open up for Jack White. And it was this is a really special conversation, as, you know, Allie growing up a very big White Stripes fan, and just it's a conversation of all the good that Jack is fostering, and just an incredible experience that Weightless had here in Vancouver, and that so many up and coming bands are having and had on the No Name tour. I'm not going to yammer on too much off the top here, but I will say, as per usual, if you got a moment and you could go rate and review the podcast on your streaming platform of choice, go do it. And if you want to share your thoughts, send us a DM on social media. We are Hardest Pod to Pod across everything except X, the Everything app, the social media app formerly known as Twitter. We're not there. You can also send me an email, hardestpodtopod@gmail.com. And if you want to support the show, if you like what we're doing and you want to reach into the old pocketbook, well, you can do that. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/hardestpodtopod. buymeacoffee.com/hardestpodtopod. Finally, before we go into our conversation with Allie, two things. First, Jack White progress update. There is none. But we hear about what a great person he is from Allie. Time for our call to action. We need you to go to your streaming platform of choice and listen to The Big Three Killed My Baby, track 3 off the White Stripes' first album. Because everybody that takes a moment, when I tell you to hit pause and you take that moment and you go and listen, that little blip in the streaming data, in the downloads and the streams, will get bigger and bigger and bigger each week, and we will make a little bit more noise, and we might just let them know that we're here. Welcome back. Thank you for hitting pause. If you listen on Spotify, I've now been able to link the song that we're talking about this week in the episode description. So it's easier than ever. But Apple Podcasts, no, you're still screwed. I love you, Apple, but it is a clunky podcast platform. Enough yammering on my part. Let's talk to Allie. Our guest this week performs in two fantastic bands. She's the lead singer of Little Destroyer and performs in Weightless, which I believe has been described as a big, lumbering fuck-off machine that's going to destroy. They just opened for Jack White at the Commodore Ballroom. She is Allie Sheldan. Allie, how are you doing today?
Hello. I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
I I must say, if on the first night of the Jack White shows,
Mhm.
my wife and I went down early and accosted all the hardcores in line and handed out business
Mhm.
cards and it's like, hey, this is
Amazing.
what we're doing. A nice little DIY approach. And I've been given a little bit of grief from my wife that there's only white dudes on the show so far. So that was my selling point to people. One, I'm like, listen, I'm working on it. They're not problematic, but I am heavy on the white dudes. So I appreciate
A
um,
white lady.
a, a white lady.
One
uh,
step in the right direction.
we're getting there. Um, I have a lot of curiosities about you. We're gonna discuss the Big Three Killed My Baby, one of the heavier songs off of the White Stripes' first album.
Mhm.
But before we talk about opening up for Jack White, what's your connection with the White Stripes?
Um, so for me, like growing up, I was like super just like punk rock. That was it. Probably when I was so like their first album comes out in 99. It would have probably not even really like registered for me because I would have been like, no, it's not punk rock.
Mm,
Now, fast forward to the time when they would have been like several albums in, and probably at the time when they were like becoming more not mainstream, but just like they legitimately started having fucking massive hits.
yeah.
Was a time for me when I was out of I was a little bit older and I like discovered rock and roll, if that makes sense. So I really like old school rock and roll stuff. One of the bands was Led Zeppelin. Uh, that was like so early 20s and the Stones. And so those were kind of like this transfer from being like very small minded about like I'm only going to listen to fucking like GBH or fucking the Casualties
Hell
or the
yeah.
Distillers, which like love them still, but like being like, oh, there's like let's think about like the history of music and where it comes from, blah blah blah, blah. And so the White Stripes plays into that of being like in that time frame when I was like so starting to be like, oh my god, I love rock and roll, and obviously um, that's coming from a place of like blues, um, like historically black music, and then Jack White is somebody who honors that so like truly,
Oh
and
yeah.
also being Detroit based has that history of like a certain type of rock and roll. And so it kind of was like coinciding of being like their rise to being me being like, oh, like this is so cool and I'm really into this. And they were such a visual band. I'm a really like visual artist as well, and like so it's like for me the combination of hearing something that was like so authentically kind of throwback rock and roll and like visually so interesting, and you're seeing it on the platform of like on Much Music or MTV or whatever at a time for me when I was like, oh, I want to devour like rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then it wouldn't have been too much long after that that my brother and I did our like cover band thing. They're
Yeah.
also a really great example of a band that's like so simple,
Mm-hmm.
great songs. It makes it accessible to me as being like a young woman. Like I grew up playing bass, but I was getting into wanting to play guitar. And so like it was something that I was like, I can do this. I mean, Jack White's obviously fucking phenomenal ripping guitar player and through
Yeah.
his career, but also like that first album, he's 24.
Yeah.
Like
He's
he's a
young. He's a
child.
child, and we'll get into it, but it kind of the way they put together that first album, it was like I think he kind of didn't think he would have another shot, so he seemed to
Mhm,
put like every song he had in his mind. Like that album, there's so many songs on that record, it's all over the place, it's
mhm,
fantastic, but I felt like I don't know when I'm gonna be in a studio again. I just need to do
mhm.
this now.
Throw it
But
all against the wall.
you brought up a great point though. That number one, the White Stripes are simple. They are simple by design.
Mhm,
Everything
mhm.
about it
Yeah,
is intended to
by
be simple.
design. Yeah, like I'm like these are it's brilliantly
Yes.
um simple, which is actually incredibly difficult to do, and to make songs that are like so good, so listenable, so catchy. I don't think people understand actually how how impossible it is. Look how many like two people bands actually ever get success. There's like not that many. Death from Above. There's a really cool band called Teen Mortgage that are pretty sick. I think they're like, but I'm like, you just don't usually get it, and usually at some point they're adding extra shit and whatever.
Well, yeah, we have accidental on purpose trend on the show of slagging the Black Keys, and if you go see them in tour right now, there's 5 guys behind them.
Yeah.
So, that simplicity by design, but also, Jack White, the White Stripes wrote and performed simple songs, but like that didn't mean they were lazy or unremarkable. It was just, that ability to write a song. His songwriting abilities was just like the White Stripes were the kind of perfect venue for that. They were it was on full display, and you're like, okay, I don't need an elaborate full piece band of the best players. It's all on full display, and it's good.
Yeah,
and
they don't need anything to hide behind.
No.
And like Meg's drumming is, I think, some of the most like historically iconic, like coolest, best drumming in rock and roll. Like,
Meg White's probably one of the coolest people in modern rock of all time.
Yeah, like without a doubt. And again, like it's like they're making something really difficult look easy, and so like effortless.
Yeah.
And they did since the beginning, and like it's again, like it's why there's only one White Stripes and why they're so iconic.
Dude, could not agree more. So as the No Name tour kind of began, Jack White started off with these kind of guerrilla shows. Like he would have 1 or 2 days notice, like, hey, we are literally driving the Sprinter van to Milwaukee or whatever. Here's when you can buy tickets. They get a local act, and they throw together a show. It's the most, it's probably the most punk rock thing he's done in 25 years. It's cool as hell. What was the process like for Weightless to get that call, to get that correspondence and say, why don't you open for me?
It was honestly, like it was only within, I would say, like 2.5 weeks to the show, maybe 3. Rebecca, the singer, does like the email, she's doing that stuff. So she hits us up and is like, hey, we got this email about opening for Jack White, ? And for the first like 15 minutes of us like looking at the email and like talking about it, we're all just like, we're being catfished. They're not asking us for money. They're not like, hey, also send $3,000 to like secure your spot. Like there was nothing like that going on.
Here's Jack White's PayPal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So once we got our heads wrapped around it, they're obviously like really on it, super good, back and forth, got it all sorted. And the whole process was super seamless, really easy. Like his team of people are incredible.
Yeah.
The show, like his crew, everybody was so nice. You can tell. Well, this is a saying that doesn't apply in this situation, but I say this sometimes, that the fish rots from the head. And so that trickle down effect. So this would be like the opposite of that. Like you can tell that like
that's
Jack
a sick
White,
saying.
Yeah, like he fosters obviously a workspace and a creative space that is like positive and loving and supportive and fucking cool. Cause like everybody was so nice, so like laid back and like, easy. Like they were just so accommodating and so kind to us, which I'm sure has been the case with all of these bands that they've been having, all of us little guys. And they don't need to be that way. but you can just tell that like that environment is fucking positive to be in. And it was so cool to experience that. So same thing. Once we kind of like got over thinking we were being catfished,
Yeah.
we're like, cool, like this is the coolest thing ever. And like, thank you to whoever submitted us to him. Like at some point they would have been getting like probably asking venues like submit locals.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking is probably how it worked. Usually that's a fairly common thing of like, but it'll be like the management or booking agent will be like, can you submit some locals that might make sense with this to the local booking agent or the local promoter. So we made it on a list somewhere, got sent over, and then it's my understanding that he goes through those lists and then like hand selects the bands.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So we kind of got some other info, but basically too of like that being like he then like will review it and be like, yeah, this is who I want. So it's like super intentional and so fucking cool. And you know, checking out other bands he's had, it's all the same thing, like, you know, kind of like 3,000 to 5,000 followers, just weird little punk bands, metal bands, like noise bands. Like he's like super intentional, the whole thing, obviously, to be very like, I don't know, real punk. Like it was super cool.
That's the scene he comes from. Like I remember he did a compilation disc called Sympathetic Sounds of Detroit, and or something like that. Anyway, I bought it at Scratch Records back in the day, but it was like, here's the White Stripes scene, and you kind of think it's like, oh, here's the grunge scene, here's 10 or 15 bands that all kind of sound the same. And like with the bands that they were coming up with, it was, they don't sound alike very much or at all. Like there's a lot of the same drive and the same passion and like and that, but like, there were a lot of weird noise bands. Like the White Stripes would always take on unique bands opening, and it's very special. Like it's very special to hear that he's still giving the opportunities to up and coming bands.
It's
and
incredible.
It's
the $20 like student tickets, day of releasing tickets to students for $20. Like amazing. I
signed up for the Vault, so I got my pre-sale tickets. So I went both nights.
Nice.
And I was expecting, okay, it's my favorite artist in the best venue ever. It's 900 people. Like, okay, if it's under $300, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And for tickets to be $120 regular price, like I go look at what AC/DC charges to play at BC Place, which I went to, and it was just disgusting. Trick, like just this, everything post COVID is this how can we make as much money as possible? How can we sell the shittiest t-shirt and charge it as much as possible? And you go to the Commodore 2 weeks ago, shirts 55 Canadian, and yes, obviously we all remember buying shirts for $20, but in this
day and age, like that's crazy.
It's really, it was so many things about it were so special.
Like you could just tell every part of this was so intentional. And you know what? Like we can all say, oh, if I was in that position, I would do that. But the reason why most people don't is because it's more work for you as a person to be that engaged and intentional about being like, how do we make it work to have it be like this or look like this or do these things?
Yep.
And really being like committed to your ethics and your integrity around things. Like it's just so often not the case. And we don't even like demand it of artists. Like we're just like, we accept it to be whatever it is because if you want to go see your favorite artist and whatever, you're like, it's a fucked up industry. I'm going to go. I don't even like we just all kind of like bend over and take it. Because the industry, and not even the artists, but the industry run by the people who are profiting off of artists, have designed it in such a way. But we all still need art. All that this person is like, committed to a greater cause. And one of his, I think maybe his guitar tech, or maybe somebody else on the crew. We were just asking them like, where they were from, and he was like, most he's like, most of the crew and people in the band and stuff are from Detroit. So he really tries to support that local scene and hire everybody like within his community, which is also really fucking cool. So
it's so special because, like, you know, we've all interacted with assholes and just dicks and people that, and like it's either you either remember the challenges you had going, you know, on the way up, and either want to, you know, bully it back, or you want to realize, like, I don't want to create that for the next person, so I'm going to you know, to offer opportunities that, you know, other people didn't offer me, or I had to scratch and claw to get. Like, it's special. Yeah, like, you know, fostering can be a buzzword. Fostering can be an HR term, but the man is fostering.
Oh yeah, the
hell
motherfucker
of
is
a lot.
fostering an incredibly positive and exciting community around like fucking rock and roll music, live music, art. It's just so cool. It's like it's so fucking cool. Yeah.
And as a Jack White fan, like, I've been a fan since the 10th grade, so this was probably like the 12th and 13th time I've seen them. Like, I just go every time he's in town. And for the tour in 2022 at the Coliseum, like fresh out of COVID, it did kind of bum me out. Like, you could clearly tell that, you know, the promoter, you know, was doing what they needed to do through him, and the kind of the quality of the, you know, of the merch and the ticket sales and the overall experience. I'm like, oh, this is kind of, like, it's never shitty, but it's like, it's not as, I don't know, it could be a little cooler, it could be a little more authentic. And to have this new album that, you know, feels like his roots, and to have this type of tour, like you talk about that being the, you know, the best night of your life for all the right reasons. Like, goddamn, that 48 hours just was so special to me, and I imagine it was so special to so many people. Everybody, the head ain't rotten on that fish, and I think everybody comes away. If you're leaving that show or that experience with a negative response, and somebody didn't, like, I don't know, somebody wasn't
there can't be a way. There's no way that you could have left that. And like, it's so cool for you to have seen them, like, again, like Commodore, like you said, incredible venue. Best venue. And having 2 nights, having different set lists too. He's calling them every night. We were standing side stage. You can see he is like straight up, like, just counting them in to the drummer or to the, you know, like, it is on the fly. Those guys are like, and his band's obviously fucking world class, incredible, amazing. So, like, you know, they can do that. But again, like, that is not, nothing about that is easy. People can't just do that. Like, those guys are all just, it's so cool. And then you get, as a fan, getting to go 2 nights, you get to see, you know, a completely different set, which has different energy, and like, it's so cool. It's just also cool.
On this, like, you know, your band you know, probably has a set list, probably has it all figured out. Yeah,
we have to. We're idiots. You kidding me? Even with our set list written down, and we've done it the same for half a year, we still are like, what song is next? How does it start? Like, I mean, you know, like, you play a song a million times, and you're still like, I don't know what the notes are in this song.
What key is this? Is that an A?
I mean, like, you know, that show for Jack, like, I personally played a very good set. It doesn't always happen, but I played it, and I don't think I made a mistake. Okay, which is, I'm not being like, I'm so fucking good. I, like, often make mistakes. I'm into playing. I mean, I'm in fucking rocking out and all, like,
you're a performer, man.
Like, hit the wrong note. The wrestling show, like, second song in, I was like, every second note I was hitting was wrong, and I was like, well, at least I used up my really good show, like, for Jack, and now I'm like, sorry, fucking WrestleCore, you're not paying attention to us really either. Like, you're looking at the wrestlers, it's fine. I was like, literally, I was like, brain dead. Like, a few times I was like, what? how does this song even go? And like, you can't access the information. So I used
It's
it all
well,
before. So
it's all muscle memory for you, but as soon as you're like, how does that go again? It's just like, well, I've lost it. Like I have no way. Yeah.
yeah.
What
So
was like
yeah.
you mentioned how cool everybody the crew and the
Mhm.
band was, like, they're clearly very welcoming and
Mhm.
wanting the best for the opening act. Was outside of the positivity, was there anything different, any more opportunities or situations that were a little more unique opening for Jack White than say another band?
I mean, other than it just being Jack White, I mean, usually in these situations, even if you get onto a bill, you're not direct support. You might just be
Mhm.
like the opening band. He would usually be like in this circumstance touring with a band, a bigger band. Or, you wouldn't be so being made like as a small band, being made so directly like, being direct support is a pretty big deal. And being treated so much just like you would be it's different than when you're like the first band on a 3-band bill or the first, you know what I mean? So
Oh,
there was that kind of situation. Um, it, you never know. Another thing I'll say, like you, like looking forward, you never know how the dots are going to connect.
mm-hmm.
Like looking back, you're like, damn, that's crazy. Like look at how all of this came together. So this feels like something that, no matter what, there's going to be like positive results from it, no
Yeah.
matter I'm not sure how that might look moving forward, but I think for all of the bands that got this opportunity, there's now a different type of trajectory that can happen.
Well, I was gonna say I've been to a lot of shows at the Commodore, and I thought like, okay, we'll get there, we'll catch the opening act set just because we're already down here, and then we'll move up to the front. That place was so jam packed, and like,
I think those people, like, I think they had been hanging out all day to get in
yeah,
there, and they were like up front, and they were up, they didn't budge. Like, they weren't pissing, they weren't drinking, like, they were up front to
yeah,
have those spots so that when Jack played, they could be there. So I was like, sorry, you're being subjected to us, whether you like it or not.
motherfucker.
Motherfucker. Yeah.
I just it was so cool that, like, of all the stuff that you're getting, that Jack White is creating for opening acts.
Mm.
Oh, everything up till now sounds amazing. Then you go out on stage and you're like, oh, this place is packed to the gills.
Okay, well, here's another thing that is like so unheard of. We were slated to start at 8.
Yeah.
We had 30-minute set. Sick. I think doors had been at 7. At around 7:40, his I don't know if she was like his. She wasn't the tour manager, but she was one of the like. She might have been like
Sure.
the stage manager. I think she was
Okay.
a stage manager, and she was like this also like amazing, like 65-year-old woman who was so fucking cool. And again, to see like him making a point, like I have the impression that she's worked with him for a long time, but just having like, he's like, I'm getting this woman, this badass like woman who's been in the industry forever to be my like stage manager or whatever. So cool.
Absolutely.
She was amazing. And she was like, hey, I know you're supposed to play at 8, but we might push you to 8:15 because we just want to make sure it's as full as possible
Get out of here.
for
Come
you
on.
guys. And we were like, oh, yeah, like, sure. And we're just like, whatever you need, like, we'll fucking, And she's like, and of course, like, you still get your full 30 minutes, but we just want to make sure, like, the experience is, like, the best experience for you guys. So we'll let you know. I know she was like, I know it's kind of annoying because you're all, like, ready to go and, like, excited. But she's like, I'll know soon if we're going to push the start time.
Hell yeah.
And so we're like, okay, yeah. And so then, like, just close to 8, she's like, yep, we're going to push it to 8:15. And through a friend of mine who knows the guy that runs the venue, whatever, like he was saying that they were like never in the history of the Commodore has like a something like this, like a headlining act, been like, actually, we're going to push the opening act a little later so that they get a better audience, because there's the potential that it fucks up their timeline, right?
Of course, yeah. It's everybody's looking out for the top of the food chain in this situation, and it isn't the case here, and that's.
It's like
I love everything I'm hearing.
You're like, what? Like, this is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
there were so many things about it that we were all kind of like, huh? That is just not how it's usually done. And again, we're just like, okay, like, that's amazing. So yeah, you know what? Those extra 15 minutes probably meant that an extra couple hundred people were in. So when we were playing, like, honestly, it was like, it seems like it's pretty much full.
Yeah.
To play to a full Commodore, like, that's crazy.
Come on, that's a bucket list item right there.
Yeah.
Who had the idea to go full rock and roll and bring the 40-pounder of Jack Daniels on stage?
Well, we like, shout out Megan. So we were having to wait a little bit before we could like get in, and like, so anyways, we had just gotten there. We were like getting our gear in, but we just had to wait a minute for the sound check to end before we could actually go in. So like, we're in the alleyway and it's waiting, and our friend Megan Magdalena, who's done our music videos, and she does like all our photos. She's amazing. Yeah. So like, if you're on our Instagram, anything, like, it's all Megan photos. She actually just did some 41 photos at the like their they just got like
at the Junos.
They got inaugurated into some type of rock and roll Canadian.
Oh, okay.
In Calgary. Anyways, she was just there doing photos of them. But nice. Yeah, so she was with us because she was coming to do photos and stuff. And she like ran to the liquor store and brought us back a bottle of Prosecco and Jack Daniels. And because we were like, oh man, we need something to drink when we're in the alleyway. So we were like, she's like, the Prosecco to celebrate, and like Jack Daniels because like rock and roll. So we were all like drinking that and having that. And then like, my amp is the Lemmy Signature Series.
Fuck yeah.
There's like 100 of them. Or I mean, that'd be like 500. Like, somebody was like, there's either between 100 and 500 in North America. There's so few. So
is it a Marshall?
It's a Marshall. So it's like a Marshall Lemmy like Signature Series amp that like they put out in 2008.
Yeah.
I have like a certificate with like Lemmy signature and Jim Marshall signature. So this is the amp I have. So like, and I play Rickenbacker. I'm like a huge Motorhead fan. So it also like we had it backstage, and I was just like, oh, this is kind of funny. I got to commit to the bit. I got to take the bottle out. So
damn straight you do.
It's funny. So and I got to have some through the set. So it was great. Yeah.
I loved it. I thought Weightless crushed it. You guys were loud as hell. It was really cool. And oddly enough, Big Sugar opened up the next night.
I think that they must be. I think they're friends.
Yeah.
I think in the scheme of all of this,
he's a huge Big Sugar fan.
Yeah. So I think that was like that second night was because through the whole tour, it was almost always both nights it would be a small like punk band or whatever.
Yeah.
But that one I think was just like a like having their buddies play, which is also like super cute.
Yeah.
And nice. And like Jack watched some of our set.
Hell yeah, he did.
Which I didn't know, which is great because I think if I had talked to him, I would have been like, then I would have started playing wrong notes.
Yeah.
And when we went to like get our photo with him, like meet him, he's like shakes our hands and stuff, and then like as he was shaking my hand, he said, "Great bass playing" to me. Like, what?
Come on.
I can just die now.
Yeah.
Like you just acknowledged my music playing. Like he said into my face hole, "Great bass playing." I was like shaking his hand, being like, and the photo of us is really funny, I think, because like Trevor and I are standing next to him. So our shoulders are like touching him, and our faces in the photo is very like tough and kind of like, be cool. And then like Rebecca and Michael, who are on the outside, are both like kind of like smiling and
Big
like
smile.
like, you know, like joyful, and Trevor and I are both like shitting ourselves, kind of like, be
Rock
cool,
and
man,
roll.
like, just act cool. Yeah. So, but yeah, like that's fucked. Like that's fucked to me. I'm like, that is just so cool.
I love that this, like, I love that this experience happened to you. I love everything that top to bottom. And I also love that I don't know, we just talked for 40 minutes about this. And
I talked forever.
no, but like,
talked about the song, but it was like there, like I was saying, and like I can't emphasize enough how unique an experience it was. Like
yeah.
I've played, I mean, I started playing in bars when I was 14. I'm fucking old. I'm like, how old am I? I'm 38. I've been doing this a really long time.
Yeah.
And I've played some big shows. I've played Commodore multiple times. I've like with Little Destroyer, we've done a shit ton of kind of crazy stuff. And like, I've done a lot of stuff. Not everything, but like I've certainly done enough, whatever. I've had lots of experiences. I'm like, hands down, like this was, for so many reasons, like such a unique experience and so amazing and positive and cool. And like, and the fact that it was coming from all of this from Jack White, who's like just one of the greatest like songwriters, guitar players, sound makers, you know, ever, is like, I don't know. It's just, I'm like, I can't say it enough. It was like the greatest night of my fucking life. And all of us, we all were just like, you know, we had a few days afterwards of just being kind of like depressed. We're like, well, I just want to go back I just want it to be Thursday over and over again. Like, you know,
I couldn't imagine like just that high end, like, we're like, you know, we start talking about like how, you know, you come up as your snot-nosed punk kid, like we've all been there, where the only type of music involves having studded bracelets, and then you know, you grow up, you're kind of evolve with the White Stripes, and then, you know, you carry it on, you take it serious, you take music seriously, and, you know, make a career out of it, and devote your life to it, and then you're going full circle with goddamn Jack White throwing you the biggest opportunity possible. Like, that's
so cool. Yeah, like again, I'm like the impact, like the whole experience, and it could have gone like many different ways, and like no matter which way it would have gone, it still would have just been like amazing. So, but there was just all these elements that made it like mind-boggling. And at the end of the day, like I truly don't think, like, none of us are owed anything. Like life is chaos most of the time, and like you can put in years of work, and like who knows, like the reason you show up and do something is because you are, like, I believe for music, like you're compelled beyond reason to create and do it, and you know, it's from a place of love, and like that is definitely my approach. And like that was just like, so again, like so clearly what was permeating like the whole situation with him. So like, you know what, fuck yeah, that this is like, that you are like such a super fan, just to be like, no, like 100%, this is like a good ass human being, you know.
It's the
like
exact
a cool motherfucker.
You know, like the don't meet your heroes, like, well, let's make an exception for our boy Jack from Detroit, because he's given back a lot. He's you know, just all the, like, this tour, and for a lot of his career, it's just somebody that didn't become jaded and look to give back, and you know, make it a little bit easier, and give that opportunity where it wasn't given to him by some dickhead hipster. So that rules.
So cool.
Let's circle back.
With the song.
Hey man, this has been great. We're not cutting anything out of this. Let's talk about the big three. Killed My Baby. It's the third song off the first album, which came out in '99. You're a guitar player, you're a musician. I noted that the song starts out with the strumming of the strings on the headstock, which is like, if you're new to playing guitar, it's like, whoa, this is the coolest sound ever. How come nobody's doing that?
I always try to do it on bass, and you like can't, and like I'm convinced that I can, so I'll like try, and it kind of parts was like not the same. It's such a good move on guitar, but like he's like so good at. It's actually interesting you saying earlier like that he put out a Detroit kind of mixtape and like there was some really noisy stuff on it because like there's like a lot of lassoing of noise that he does. He makes it contained and like makes it cool sounding and not like so caustic that it's bad, but it's like he's always on like the line, and certainly live you can see that where he's just like a master of noise manipulation, sound manipulation. So it's cool on this song, like you can hear it in the early stuff, like it's all a little like more rackety. So
I kind of listen, my kind of process for these episodes is listening to the song a handful of times, on loop and just kind of listening for things that I, maybe glossed over. Going back to this song, like what stands out to you? What's something that's kind of
cool. Like in the second refrain, there's like, well, the point like the song starts building tension because instead of going to the same like chords, starts going up.
Yeah,
and that's a cool moment. The breaks, like, very much like guitar, drums, break, and then a lyric. So you're like doing those really like call and answer almost like with instruments, which is really cool. And again, like you're listening and you're like, right now, all that is happening is his vocal.
Yeah.
But I'm not sitting and going, oh, it seems kind of like sparse or boring or whatever. You're so engaged. His voice is also like, shout out his voice. Like it's so, I think another element that sets it apart from other bands that could be like this, like he has just like such a unique voice and like vocal delivery.
Yeah.
I think it's cool too because like I think he writes actually like quite a bit about like on the surface, if you're listening, like relationships, romance, like loves, lost loves, hard loves, super loves, whatever, like dead loves. This song obviously can be like first listen through, you're just like, what the fuck does this even mean? The big three killed my baby. As you like go into it, you're like, okay, well, he's not talking about a relationship with a person. It's like it could be either like really literal, like you killed my car, or you killed like the industry, or you killed like practical evolution, or you killed like an element of Detroit.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So there's so many like possible ways to interpret it. But I always like that too, where like in a first kind of pass through, you could kind of be like, oh, it's just a love song. Like if you don't actually pay attention to it, you're just like listening to those things. But there's just like so much going on. And if you read the lyrics, then you're like, okay, there's, it's more than that. So, but yeah, I was kind of like reading about some of this stuff too. Like he doesn't tend to be very political in his music that often. And like saying, like making a point of being like, he doesn't being like, it's not really a place for that, but that, this song is one of those songs where he's like saying the fuck is going on.
He was always a big fan of the good Tesla, Nikola Tesla, who tried to, develop the technology for basically the original electric car kind of stem from. And then, all of the auto industries, all the automobile companies being like, let's throw some water on this so that our moneymaker, doesn't stop. The gravy train keeps rolling. And then, the one place they called home, in Detroit was just absolutely ruined and ravaged because of just general corporate greed. And what did we just talk about for the, about your experience is like, what is the opposite of greed in the business? It's what Jack White is doing for bands. Like, it's just, it's very cool.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like that kind of, is full circle to have this be the song too, because it totally is like it's so the whole thing is so grounding and grounded, and like maybe that also comes from being somebody who's from Detroit and experienced like the fallout Detroit's experienced, and
of course
that obviously informs probably a lot of that, like the garagey kind of real sounds,
Yeah, like like they definitely felt the effects of this for a long time. Like I remember reading a few interviews around White Blood Cells recently, and they're like, they're talking almost as much about the shitty neighborhood they're from in Detroit as much as they
Mhm.
are of the music. So,
Mhm.
I also like you talk about as the song builds and builds and builds, and like when he's like, I found out my baby was dead. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Like he is
Mhm.
screaming those
Mhm.
lyrics.
Mhm.
And I remember in like
Yeah.
some kind of monster where they're filming James Hetfield just like blow out his vocal cords. And it's like that's what it sounds like Jack White is doing there.
Mhm.
Like he's left everything
Mhm.
on the tape to get his point across. It's so special.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, there's like real there's real emotion behind like all his again like he's just an emotional singer, but this is it's interesting again because it is about something that is like such a real situation.
Yeah.
um and yeah, this song has these really good like this it's like the tension is built so much.
It's a
um
stressful song.
yeah, it
It starts
is.
out stressful with
You're
the
like, this guy's
headstock.
fucking pissed. He's upset. Like, yeah.
You talked about earlier we talked about what a great drummer, what a special and unique drummer Meg was.
Mhm.
Um, you know, everything's simple for a reason, but like simple doesn't mean bad. And like one of my
Yeah.
favorite types of Meg drumming is just floor tom and snare of just
Mhm.
heavy bashing. Like
Mhm.
you don't need anything else. This is an
Mhm.
angry driving song, and
Mhm.
I just feel like
Mhm.
it delivers perfectly from her.
Mhm. Yeah, her drumming is like so emotional without being wanking. It's perfect and like such a perfect compliment to
That's such a good line.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it is like she's wailing and like is so present with it, but like it just yeah, she's not needing to like say anything extra.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like a floor tom snare like build hit. I mean, it's gonna be like forever a classic.
It's gonna get the job done.
It's gonna get the fucking job done. Yeah. So yeah, it's so great.
um as our time winds down, we spent a lot of time on this show making sure that Meg gets her flowers and
Mhm.
kind of, I don't know, she got the short end of the stick for the way she played what she played, but most importantly, she got the short end of the stick for being a woman
Mhm.
and just this like guttural dislike or hatred. Like, they made fun of her in School of Rock. She was a punchline,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I'd be curious your thoughts on that. Being a big fan of the band and just kind of seeing what critics or just miserable dudes treated her like.
Mhm. So interesting, like why people feel so inclined to like diminish somebody who like already like it has experienced being diminished. Do you know what I mean? Like, but people feel so like entitled to like say what they think about that, like somebody like Meg White, like as if she's not like painfully aware of what the existence of a woman in the creative field is like. They're like trying to extra remind her, like, how dare you try to be great or how dare you be successful, and it's just really interesting, like that psychology of like, well, like where does that come from for those people? I'd be like, why do you feel so threatened or so like specifically inclined to diminish what this woman is doing? um you know Again, like that was an incredibly intentional band, and everything about how it looked and sounded and felt and you know obviously like incredibly organic, but like they were creating something. They knew what they were doing. And to think that, I don't know, it's just like I'm just like, yeah, I'm like, I get it. Like, listen, I grew up I started playing bass when I was 8. I was like playing in bands, right? When I was super young. And I just got from an early age, like I have to be better, faster, tighter, louder, smarter. I have to know how to do it all myself. I can't have any gaps. If they see like you don't know how to fucking your amp works, or you don't know this, or you don't know where, like you have to be so much better to then be like even just acknowledged as like a baseline, like okay. Yeah. And like there's no world that like Meg White didn't experience that. So like for her to go out and be like, I'm gonna do this thing, you have to know how fucking punk rock and badass that woman is to be like, I don't give a shit. Because listen, you grew up as a woman, you're gonna get shit on.
Yeah.
Like there was no part in her experience that she went, oh, people aren't gonna like come for me for this. But they just did it. They did an amazing thing. And she didn't change what she was doing. She stuck to it. And like truly, I agree, like doesn't get the acknowledgement she should have. She's one of the greatest drummers like in rock music. And it's really hard to do that. Like I don't think very many people could play that simply and like let themselves do that. They'd have to be trying to prove themselves or do more or say more. So I'm like, yo, bitch, like that is a punk rock badass motherfucker.
Yeah.
And like such a cool woman in rock and forever will be. And I mean, she gets to be Meg White and all those other people just to get to be the sad losers that they are. So
yeah. And she like didn't go out in a blaze of glory. The White Stripes were like, all right, we're falling on our laurels. We're kind of going back to basics. Like, let's leave like let's go out as heroes. Let's not, be diminished in any way. And fucked off. She's a shy, quiet person who likes her privacy. And she did that. And we could only imagine that she's happy as hell in her life. But, it wasn't until very recently there was some tweet that went out by some like blue checkmark shithead that was like, oh, Meg White's a terrible drummer. And like, or like, imagine how good the White Stripes could have been if they had a better drummer. And I was like, it blew up, and to the point where like Jack White made a post on Instagram about like explaining what we all knew about how good she was and how important she was. And it was, and
it's like I mean, like literally it's like seminal. It's like 2 parts of the sound, but like it's half the sound.
Yeah.
Like again, they just wouldn't have existed. It wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have been the same thing. Like it all worked because of those 2 people exactly how they were together.
Yeah. Like, and I was kind of not that I was worried, but like I'd never kind of seen, Jack and kind of in passing would always say Meg's the most important part of the band. And you go like, yeah, because of the presentation or this or that or a unique drumming style. But to hear him kind of like come to her defense and like stand up, I was like, that's what we need to hear. That's what she deserves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This was a fantastic conversation. I'm going to finish the nuts and bolts about this song after we wrap up here. Yeah. But thank you for sharing your incredibly positive story. And
so happy to. I'm happy to like relive. You want me to talk about the best night of my life? Sure. Like I guess so. Yeah, it was so special. And I'm so happy it was so special. It's so fun to talk about, to be like, it was everything any of us could have ever dreamed of it being. It was just perfect. So
what is next for Weightless?
We have our next music video coming out pretty soon, probably end of June. And we have our first full-length album coming out in July.
Hell yeah.
Gonna be released on cassette.
Just cassette?
Pretty fucking sick. Well, for the time being. And like online.
Hell yeah. Okay.
And then when Third Man Records signs us, we
Yeah.
release it on vinyl.
Just a matter of
I'm
time.
manifesting. And then and then a bunch of, so we'll do like a big van show for that release, and then some shows in the fall, different festival things. Playing Purple Fest in September, that's in Edmonton. Playing a punk fest in the Okanagan. I can't remember that one, in the fall as well. Yeah, so just some shows and this and that, but main focus right now is just getting our video out and our album out in the summer, which we're super excited about.
I look forward to more music that I can stream. I was listening to both singles. I was listening to Hot Girl, which is a sick song, and then Another Year. Really, you got a handful of streams for me today. I really enjoy your band. I love the energy, and I love the experience you had. So, Allie, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story. It meant a lot.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's lovely talking to you.
Circling back to Big Three Killed My Baby, Allie and I just wanted to keep hearing about the positive experience that she had opening up, her band had opening up for Jack White on the No Name tour. So we went a little long, but let's dive into some things about the Big Three Killed My Baby. I got a great message last week regarding, I want to say, the I Can't Wait episode that I did a while back with PMAC about lyrics and how we got them wrong. And so I went and got the I have my White Stripes complete lyric book, and the Big Three Kill My Baby is a pretty damn tight song, but there is some they have the original hand painted lyrics on the Big Three Killed My Baby. And it starts out with this verse: "They downsize the easy way to decrease the payday. I'm not big enough to change your play. Look out, El Nino's coming your way." No knock to Jack White, but the way the song is structured and the final form of it is the right one. I keep having these moments with White Stripes songs where I think, oh, this is just a perfect encapsulation of the band. I had it with I Just Don't Know What to Do With Myself. The last 29 seconds of that song, just incredible. I absolutely love the stretch at about the 120 mark of this song, where it's like, "I found out my baby is dead. Yeah, yeah, yeah." When I was talking with Allie, where he's basically blowing his vocals out. Just, you could put that on a White Stripe sizzle reel, and it's like, you could put that with I Just Don't Know What to Do With Myself, of like, hey, what's the band sound like? And these clips would do a damn good job, describing it and just painting that picture. Let's move on, you and me, listener. Let's move on to the song's legacy in a little segment we call Little Room, Big Impact. This song was released as a single in March of 1999, and it's the only single from the first album. It was released on Italy Records, which is the local Detroit label, before their first album, the self-titled album, was eventually released on Sympathy for the Record industry out of Los Angeles. The song was produced by Jim Diamond, who is one of the Detroit leeches who tried to capitalize on the White Stripes' success and unsuccessfully sued them in 2006, as he claimed he shaped their sound and their style and deserved more royalties after mixing and recording the first two albums, though he was listed as a co-producer on the first album. Took the jury about 20 minutes to realize he was full of shit, and he was paid and credited accordingly. A couple of things about this song. It appeared on the Greatest Hits album, the double album, in December 2020. And Jack White always loved Nikola Tesla, who invented, the Tesla coil is part of a lot of White Stripes imagery. It was featured in the movie Coffee and Cigarettes, which the White Stripes were in. And he kind of talked about how Tesla created the technology or the means to have fully electric vehicles, and the big three, the auto companies, the oil companies, they just made sure that didn't happen. So once Elon Musk and Tesla started creating electric vehicles, Jack was quite stoked about it. In 2016, he was there's a photo on Instagram where the caption is Elon Musk and Jack White in Brooklyn. The big three can't kill this baby. He is the Henry Ford of the 21st century. Quote from Jack White. Well, as we all know, that could have been true for a little while. Of course, Elon Musk went insane, doing Nazi salutes, being really problematic, doing so much ketamine he couldn't pee straight during the 2024 presidential election and the campaign. Just generally a pretty bad person, pretty transphobic person. I think a lot of people probably liked what he was doing in the early to mid 2010s, including Jack White. In that drastically changed, obviously, in the last couple of years. In December 2023, Jack White basically cut ties and quite publicly condemned Elon Musk, and he cut a promo. You did a lot of amazing things with Tesla, Elon, and you deserve a lot of compliments in that department, but you've gone too far. You're using your power to promote horrible violence and inducing liars who are taking the country and the world backwards and endangering the democracy that you made rich and successful in the first place. Sorry, that made you rich and successful in the first place. So yeah, Jack White, former friendship with Elon Musk does not exist anymore. Jack White did a Third Man Records, and Jack White did a big auction, like a garage sale for I forget what the charity was for or what the cause was, but he auctioned off his Tesla, and he didn't want to drive it anymore. He didn't want it. If you watched some video content during the making of the Raconteurs album in 2019, I remember Jack posting and saying like the best place to listen to music is in the car, which is 100% true. And they would take the songs they were working on and they would play them over an FM transmitter, and then they would listen to them in Jack's Tesla to hear how they sounded, which is such a great idea. But that Tesla was auctioned off, and it is no more. We don't have to talk about the video because there isn't one. They weren't making videos back then. Let's talk about the live performance history for The Big Three Killed My Baby, because it's got a bit of a unique one. The song was first performed live at the White Stripes' 8th show at the 4th Street Fair in July 98. I believe that was the earliest bootleg that you could have gotten for a while. I remember I might have even bought a CDR in like 2003, but yeah, that was probably the earliest White Stripes performance. Could still be. So it was performed there, and then the last time it was played was July 25th, 2007 at the Chevrolet Theater in Wallingford, Connecticut. It was performed 118 times by the White Stripes. Obviously, as the catalog grows and grows, and the Big Three starts to get a little bit less shelf time. The interesting thing is it has only been performed 3 times by Jack White as a solo act. It was performed twice in 2014. One of them was in Detroit, and it was performed in 2018 at a free concert in Fremont, California at the Tesla factory. This comes from a Rolling Stone article. Jack White hit the stage with a private concert for Tesla workers on Friday in California. White not only gave a great performance, but also test drove an upcoming Tesla model. I am a huge fanatic and supporter of everything Tesla has been doing since day one, White said in a statement. I'm proud to say I was one of the first Model S owners in Nashville. He auctioned that car off, which I think is the greatest automobile ever made. It's been a thought of mine for a few years now that I would love to do a free concert for the employees at the Fremont factory. The Rolling Stone reported that the concert was to lift the spirits of Tesla workers as they continue to work on the new Tesla Model S after falling behind on the production schedule. What was once a very kind and noble gesture from our boy Jack, I think he wants to leave all that in the past, and that's fair. Just like in the Big Three Killed My Baby, he's very vocal and speaking out against, corporate greed, harmful policies, shitbag companies that don't care about human rights or what's best for people, and just thinking about profits. So this song was a protest anthem when it was released in '99, and it became a song that championed electric vehicles. And now I'd be curious how Jack would frame it in 2025. All the things that the Big Three were doing to harm the people of Detroit and just people in North America and the world. The electric vehicle that he was praising and championing for so long, the people behind that are doing, dare I say, even worse damage to the population and to society. So I'd love to see this song take on a life of its own in 2025, and maybe it's not about the Big Three. Maybe it's I don't know if it's a Big Four or the Big One, but this is a timeless song that, we always talk about how malleable and how special these White Striped songs are. It doesn't need to be a song that is strictly about the 1970s. And if you look at the lyrics, they are very applicable to the struggles that we're all going through today with that automobile company. And hey, maybe you've got a Tesla, and hey, it's okay. We know when you bought it. You don't have to put the sassy bumper sticker on. We know you're not happy. And if you are happy, well, then if you're happy with what he's doing, then maybe this podcast isn't for you. I'll say that. The one more thing I wanted to say about the Big Three Kill My Baby is, about how the intro starts on the headstock, and that's like one of the first, when you're learning to play guitar, you do that, you play that, and you go, wow, that sounds so cool. Nobody's ever thought of that before, and then you realize, like everybody goes through that. I would say that the Big Three Killed My Baby is the second most successful kind of entry-level approach to dicking around with a guitar. So you got number 2 is Big Three Killed My Baby at the top on the headstock, stressful sound. It's a tense song like Allie and I were talking about. That's number 2. Number 1, of course, it reminds me of Kirk Hammett on Nothing Else Matters, where he's just open picking, like it's he's picking open strings, and he said like that little noodling came from sitting on the phone with somebody at home when they're on tour and just bored out of your mind, like just playing with a guitar because you kind of have the same conversation over and over again, and that's where that came from. So open plucking, Kirk Hammett, the most successful entry-level dick around on the electric guitar. That was The Big Three Killed My Baby, and more importantly, it was a first-hand account from Allie Sheldan about what Jack White is fostering on the No Name Tour and just in music in general. If you want to support the show with a couple of dollars, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/hardestpodtopod. Once again, that is buymeacoffee.com/hardestpodtopod. And I want to thank Zenith and the Nippers, who became our first monthly supporter at buymeacoffee.com/hardestpodtopod with the message, please don't stop. And Zenith and your Nippers, we will not be stopping. It's a very busy and it's a very big month coming up for the Hardest Podcast to Podcast, and I can't wait for you to be along for the ride. The Hardest Podcast to Podcast is hosted and produced by Ryan Schaap, artwork by Catlin Likely. Amanda Schultz is our assistant editorial producer. Mike Noble is our Gato.